faith for living. 15 years after Jesus rose from the grave, the early church started to face some early problems like we all do. There was a lot of I don't know how do we say it. There was a lot of struggles. There was a lot of trials. There were a lot of conflict that was coming into this early church. There was persecution. They were losing property. They were being chased out of town. And James, 15 years later, without any Bible at this time, in fact, the book of James is the first letter that was written to any of those early churches, written by Jesus' half-brothers to the early church who still saw themselves predominantly as a Jewish congregation. And James begins to say, hey, now, if you're to write the church and tell them something, and especially if you were the first letter to be written to the churches, what would you tell them? Well, James starts with a spot we all find ourselves, and that is the trouble we all find ourselves in. James starts off with a very simple, count it all joy when you go through hard times. James understands very quickly that your life and that my life is full of trials, hardships. We know this about hardships. We know this about trials is that it will either do one of two things. It will either draw you closer to God or it will drive you from God. And James is concerned that if they're not keeping their mind right, if they're not counting it joy, if they're not seeing purpose in the trials they're going through, that they will fall away from him. As he continues on, he starts, and last week we looked at this whole idea. Now that you say you have faith, what is the good of your faith if you continue to show preferences to people? How can you say you follow God if you don't follow God? Now, we're going to continue on this morning, and as we continue, James is going to take this and he's ramping it up. So we could almost call this part 2 from last week's sermon. In fact, all of the book of James is really connected together, but he's really continuing the thought that actually started from the trials from part 1 in chapter 1, and he's been leading us through to say your trials should draw us closer to God. He's going to start and ask another question. He started last week by asking a question, how can you follow God if you don't follow God? And he's going to push this to another uncomfortable question. You see, each Sunday, these churches would gather and they would tell stories about the crucifixion. They would remind each other about the stories of Jesus, about how he walked on the water, how he fed the 5,000, how he healed the sick, and they would constantly talk about these stories. Each of these people had a faith. Yet as they faced battles that were constantly coming into their lives, they were beginning to compartmentalize their faith and begin to wrap it into this little bundle that said, we've got the stories down. We know all about him. We love the fact that he died on a cross for us, that he rose again. We've got it down. We're getting together. We're singing our songs together. We're telling the stories. And it's good. So James begins to ask this question that pushes them to think a little bit harder. Not just how can you say you have faith or that you follow Jesus if you don't follow Jesus. And by the way, I'm putting that in my own words right there. He pushes it to the next level and he asks, what is the value of your faith? What is your faith worth? In James chapter 2, he's going to look at the early church, but this is not just a question for the early church. This is a question that is for us. In James chapter 2, verse 14, we're going to start that second round of the question that he started last week. How can you say you follow Jesus if you're not really following Jesus? To what is the value of what you say you believe? And let's start. In James chapter 2, verse 14, he says this. What good is it? Or what is it worth, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but you don't show it by your actions? Can that kind of faith save anyone? What James is asking is not, do they have faith? What James is asking is, what is the value or what is your faith actually worth? Anything that we spend our time on should have value. Whatever you spend your money on should have value. Whatever you do, whatever you act out towards should have value. James is asking, what is the value or what worth does your faith have? Now, I'm going to just kind of bear with me a moment, because as we start, where we need to start is in this place that asks, if we're going to say what is the value of our faith, we need to ask another question before we can get there. And that is, what is faith? We all automatically assume that we have faith. I mean, we are sitting in here this morning, and so we are assuming we have faith. And we can classify this, we can define this in so many different ways. But I want to put this in a really easy form, and I want to help you define faith simply as this. Faith is a belief in something that causes you to act out. Or, put it another way, faith is a belief in something that dictates the actions of your life. I don't know if that made it any easier. If we're going to stop and ask this question, does faith have value in your life? We're going to have to stop, and you're going to need to define it, and that is that faith is that which you believe in, which causes you to live out or dictates the actions of your life. And I'm going to start by saying this morning. Everyone has faith. You can go outside this building this morning, and I don't care whether you are an atheist, an agnostic, a humanist, it doesn't matter. Everyone this morning has faith. We all put our faith in something. We all believe in something that causes us to live a certain way. What is your faith in, or what do you believe in which causes you to live out? If you say this morning, I don't have faith, well, you do. We believe either in self, in money, in science, in government, in a philosophy, in education. We all believe in something. There is no one this morning who can sit in this room or walk out there without saying, I don't believe in anything. We all do. Whatever you believe in is going to cause you to live out your life in a certain way. If self is what you believe in, it will cause you to do what? Well, it will cause me to do things that make me feel better. That gets me through life. You just got to do what is good for yourself. And in fact, you hear this faith system, and I call it a faith system, constantly by people who will say, you need to take care of yourself. And we do. By the way, I'm not arguing at that. But when self is your faith system, you will find a way to always pamper self first. If finances is your faith system, you will do what? You will always find a way to get more money. You will always find a way, and by the way, it will dictate how you do it. By the way, do we all need money? Yes, you cannot pay your bills without it. But when finances or money is your faith system, it will dictate the way you live your life. If education is your faith system, it will dictate what you do, what you believe, what you push on others, how much you get yourself. It will dictate your life. If government is your faith system, it will cause you to do what? We all know. As James is writing, he's looking at him and he's not questioning the fact, do they have faith? What he is asking is, what is the faith or what is the value that you get from your faith? Now, the people he's writing to, the object or what they are believing in is not in question. James already knows that the object or the person or the thing they are believing in is a Jesus who has risen from the grave or risen from the grave. He is a Jesus that was crucified. He is a Jesus that walked. He is a Jesus that they accepted as God. The question is not who they were believing in. He knew that. And in fact, that foundation was not the problem. It was the value they were getting from their faith in Jesus Christ. To kind of help us just understand this a little bit today in our own world, all we have to do is look around and ask ourselves this same question. What is the value, what worth is it for you to follow Jesus Christ? What does your faith following Jesus Christ do for you? What does it do for those around you? The reality is that faith today, even for those of us who claim to follow Jesus Christ, ends up in different values. For so many people, our faith becomes a moral objective. It keeps us from stealing, it keeps us from cheating, it keeps us from lying, and it becomes a moral value. It becomes something that for so many of us, in fact, over the years, I have heard parents say this: I wanted to send my kids to a Christian school, or I wanted my kids to go to Sunday school because I wanted them to get good morals. James would be looking at us saying, that's good, and I'm glad you want them to have good morals, but that is not the value, or that is not what your faith should be doing in your life. Is that part of it? Sure. But it has little value. For so many people, it becomes a spiritual exercise. I can go to church and I begin to feel Jesus. I go home and I have my private time and I get together and we just have this spiritual connectedness. Is that good? Sure, that's good, but that is not the value of what your faith should be. That should not be the final outcome. To so many people, faith is about a thing to belong to. It's a family tradition. It's something to fight over. This is who we are. This is what we've always been. And is that good? Is it good to pastor? Yes, that's good to be, hey, this is my tradition. But James is saying that is not the value of what your faith should be. There are many values that can come out of a faith, even following Jesus Christ. But James is looking at us and saying, I need you to ask the question, what should be the value of your faith? James continues with us to help us to understand what our values of our faith should be by giving us an example. Now, remember this, as James is giving an example, this is the only thing that it's meant for. He's giving us an example so that we can see the bigger picture. So he starts like this by saying this. Now, suppose, last week he gave us an example. Remember the example last week? Someone comes into your church with gold earrings, gold rings, fancy clothes, driving a Mercedes-Benz, wearing a Armani suit. By the way, I know those are things, but... And then someone else comes into your congregation who doesn't have anything. He's got holes in his jeans and his hair hasn't been washed in 3 weeks. And you go, ooh, hey, you come sit beside me and I've got a little seat in the corner you can sit in. How do you show your respect towards or your preferences towards people shows what we think about God. But James is continuing this because he's asking about value. He's not asking whether you have faith. That's not what is in question. The question is what is it worth? What is its value? What is the outcome of your faith? And so here's the example he begins to say. Suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing, and you say to him, well, good to see you. Have a great day. I hope you stay warm and you've got enough to eat. But then you don't do anything to help that person with any food or clothing. What good does that do? You see, if we're talking morally, this guy did nothing morally wrong, did he? As we talk about faith, this guy does what we all do. Whenever a bad situation happens, what is the first thing we always say? I'll pray for you. Whenever we hear of a disaster, what is the first thing we say? We'll pray for you. Should we pray for them? Yes. But what James is saying is that our faith should go more than morally hitting the spot by saying, hey, we're thinking about you. And as followers of Jesus Christ, we have gotten so caught up in that moment of morally we have done the right thing. We've kind of felt for them, so much so that we said, hey, we will pray for you. You're on our thoughts. You're on our minds. God bless you, brother. You see, morally, this guy had hit all the right marks. He was kind. He wished him well. God bless. He may have prayed for him. He did not speak unkindly towards or down to. He may have got together with his friends on Sunday morning and they talked about Jesus again walking on the water and sang a couple songs. Yet James says if that was the outcome of your faith, the value of it is low. James is telling us that a faith that is lived out, that follows Jesus Christ, lives itself out in a way that follows Jesus Christ. It is a value that is not based upon oneself, but on those around us. Jesus, by example, reached down, washed his disciples' feet. Jesus, by example, reached out and fed the hungry. Jesus, by example, went to a cross and gave his life for many. In fact, James earlier, we looked at this earlier, but James even tells us this before he got started. He told us what this faith should do and what it should look like. In James chapter 1, verse 27, so we're going to regress back 2 weeks, where James tells us from the start what is the value or what should be the worth of your faith. And here's how he puts it in James 1:21 or 1:27. Pure And genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means this: caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. James was saying that a faith that has value does not stop with itself. It does not simply become something that consumes it upon itself to grow more spiritual, more moral, more knowledgeable. Those things are great, but they're great because they should cause us to do what? To live out. The more we know is the more we should teach others. The more we're given, the more we should give. The more we're forgiven, the more we should forgive. The more moral we become should be the better we treat others. You see, the things that we have been given, the things that are given to us, are not made to simply consume upon ourselves. James is reminding us that things that do not change the outward actions of our life simply have little value. In James chapter 2, verse 18, he's continuing on from where he was, and we started this in a moment ago, but he continues that thought by saying this. Now, someone may argue, some people have faith, and others have good deeds. But I say to you, how can you show me your faith if you don't have good deeds? For I will show you my faith by my good deeds. You see, what James is saying is as he's talking to them about this need to grow beyond I need to know more. I need to feel more. I need to experience God more. These things are great, but if all they do is give us more, they have little worth. Now, they're like us. As James is saying this, they're simply going, yeah, hang on. We're all different. I have faith, you have outward living look. And James is saying it's not a matter of I have faith or you have faith and I have works. The one must do the other. Just kind of bear with me a moment. What you believe in affects what you do. If anyone in here loves something, I guarantee you'll sacrifice for it, right? Anyone in here a football fan? Okay, I know a couple of you guys are. But if you truly love Alabama, I better not say Auburn, right? Alabama. If you truly love Alabama, you do not, you got to put the bumper sticker on. Well, I don't know. You don't go that far. You got to stop in and you got to go. You need to know some of the names, at least of the quarterback and the coach, right? That helps. If you say you love Alabama, this is my team, I'm following. You got to do something about it. You can't just love Alabama and know nothing about Alabama. Why? Because what we believe in affects how we live. Whatever you believe in affects how you live. You cannot love New Orleans without at least doing something that says New Orleans. If you love exercise, if you are a weightlifter, and you love pumping metal, you've got to do what? You got to pump metal. If you love to run, you do what? You run. The things that we love, the things that we believe in, affect what we do. And that's what James is simply trying to say. Don't tell me you love to run if you never run. Don't tell me you love Alabama if you don't know anything about Alabama. Don't tell me you love Jesus if it doesn't do something that Jesus did. And we know what that thing is to look like. It is not simply a moralistic code that just keeps it behind closed doors. Well, I didn't lie, I didn't cheat, I didn't steal. I mean, that's pretty good. But Jesus made it very clear that the two greatest commandments are to love God and to love others. And in fact, he went on to say these are the two greatest commandments, but they're basically one commandment, because if you love God, you will love others. So our faith in God can only be expressed in what we do for others. Simple enough. Now, when James talked to us about what our faith is worth and how does it live itself out, we go, okay, I see people doing great things, and I just can't do that. I mean, we all admire, don't we admire those organizations and those people who go out and they start organizations like the Waterfront Rescue Mission? I mean, unbelievable. We admire people who stand up and do things like, hey, let's start an organization, man, a food bank. And by the way, I love these organizations, and we do what we can to try to help. Don't we love people and who have a vision to do something great, and we just go, yeah, but that's not me. I'm going to let you in on a secret. God probably did not call you to start a man, a food bank. Now, he might have. I don't know. I'm not trying to say if he has called you, you need to, go for it. But the reality is God probably never called you to start a Waterfront Rescue Mission or a teen challenge or there's so many great organizations around. How can we do good works when we are looking at going, but I just can't do that? Here's the point. To do good works is not to have to wait until some grand, great thing comes your way. To do a good thing is simply to do the right action for this moment. Every day you are called into places and positions that you have no control over. Do you ever find yourself in the middle of a situation going to Walmart and you're in there and somebody is just having a meltdown? Have you ever had a friend who needs to simply talk and to share and simply needs somebody to listen? And there's things going through your mind like, I've got laundry to do. I got grass to cut. I've got, and we all have something, don't we? The reality is that doing good works is not about waiting until something grand comes along until our plate and now we're going to do a good work. How do you do right now what you know you should do for someone else? What is the right action in this moment? Right now, how do I treat this person with respect? How do I learn to forgive this person that needs forgiveness? How do I learn to reach out and to love? And it requires, by the way, it is not simply about, okay, well, I did something great for. Instead, it's simply, I did what I know I should do for. It may be babysitting, making a cup of tea, sitting down, having a cup of coffee. It could be going out to breakfast with. It could be being a mentor to. It could be, and the options are many, to do good, to live your faith out requires that you simply get your eyes up off of yourself and to see others the way God sees them. Faith in Jesus. Not faith in self, not faith in religion, not faith in science, not faith in government. Faith in Jesus. Its value should be based upon when our love for him is so great, it causes us to do for others. James knew that this church was going through a hard time. James knew that you were going to be going through a hard time. James knew that I was going to be going through a hard time. And in the middle of these hard times, he is saying your faith should be real enough that in the middle of your hard time, it gets your eyes up off of yourself and continues to live for others. James is challenging us not if we have faith. He's not trying to say you don't have faith. James is challenging us, what is the outcome or what is the value of the faith you say you have? If it simply causes you to grow smarter, meaner, if it simply causes you to be happier, more moralistic, then its value is minimal. It is only good for yourself. A faith that is only good for itself will cease with you. It has little value. A faith that has value continues to reach out even in the hardest of times. It sees beyond today and looks for tomorrow. I'm just going to ask us a question as we get ready to close. My final question is this. What is the outcome of your faith in Jesus? What value does your faith in Jesus have? For those of us in this room, and by the way, if you're in this room this morning and saying, I don't have faith in Jesus, I'm just here because I was curious about it, I don't know. You can disregard all this. This is not for you. But for those of us who say we are followers of Jesus Christ, we have got to ask ourselves this question. What is it worth? What is its value? I know we're all going through hard times. We're going to go through things, and some of you going through things that others don't know about or is so painful that we can't imagine going through. I get it. But James is reminding us that the value of our faith has to cause us to get our eyes up off of where we're at and see others and where they're at. If your faith is only moralistic, makes you feel happy, makes you feel like you know more, then it's going to stop with you. Little value. Father, this morning as we get ready to close, Father, we all have faith. We all believe in something. And this morning, most of us in this room, we are not doubting the object of our faith. We are so thankful for what you've done for us. We're thankful for the cross. We're thankful for the resurrection. We are just so grateful for the forgiveness that you give to us and the hope of eternal life. But Lord, help us to see our faith as more than that. Our faith was not intended to simply be a life insurance policy. It was to be a life-giving relationship. With our heads bowed and our eyes closed, I just want to ask you a really personal question this morning. I want to start with, do you have faith in him? Where's your faith located? What are you believing in? What are you trusting in? Can I just say this? You may be asking and you may be challenging and you may be stopping to say, God, I don't know where. I'm struggling. I don't know whether I do believe in you. There's always room. Even if you're not sure you can totally trust him yet, can I just encourage you to stop and, hey, God, let me try you. Let me just see how you go. His forgiveness, his grace, it's always available. He makes it very clear, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. This morning, if you're ready to make a commitment and you've never made a commitment, you can simply pray a prayer like this: God, I'm ready to give you my life. I'm ready to follow. I'm ready to try to see life outside of and beyond myself. Thank you for the cross. Thank you for your forgiveness. Maybe this morning you're already a follower of Jesus Christ. Can I just ask you this question? What is the value of your faith? Where does it lead to? What is the outcome? Is the value of your faith to cause you to know more? Is it to cause you to feel more? Is it cause you to be, whatever it is it selfish or is it selfless? God calls us to a faith where its value sees others as he saw us. Father, thank you for this opportunity to come. May we see others the way that you saw us. May we forgive like you forgave. May we see ourselves as someone who's a channel of your goodness, of your grace, of your forgiveness, of your mercy, of your, Lord, of so much that you provide for us. Lord, most of us were never called to do grand things, but we were all called to do good things. Our faith should cause us to see others as you saw us. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your watch care over us. Thank you for your cross. In your name we pray. Amen. You are dismissed. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night. By the way, Tuesday night, we're going to dig into this a lot more. Seatbelts on. We're going to see where we can get through. Thank you.